The air shimmered around him, almost alive, as Alex stared at the swirling portal hovering above the polished floor of the alien courtyard. He had been chosen. Of all humans, of all beings, the alien princess herself had reached out and selected him. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. His heart pounded not from the fear of the unknown, but from the gravity of what lay ahead. Beyond the portal stretched a world he could barely imagine, a palace floating among glowing skies, rivers of light coursing between enormous crystalline structures, and the faint hum of energy that seemed to breathe like a living organism. The Princess Leora stood beside him, her silver eyes steady, her voice calm but compelling. "Step forward," she said, "and your life will change forever." Alex swallowed, trying to keep his shaking hands from betraying him. He took the first tentative step into the unknown. The moment he crossed the threshold, the air changed, tingling against his skin as if every molecule were alert to his presence. Colors he could not name swirled around him, refracting in impossible ways, and the very ground beneath his feet seemed to shift, adapting to his weight and movement. Alex felt both lost and exhilarated, as though he had walked into a dream painted. With light and energy, Leora followed him, gliding effortlessly, her presence reassuring yet mysterious. "Do not be afraid," she said. "The palace will guide you, but you must choose carefully. Every step matters here." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He understood instinctively that this was no ordinary place. It was alive, aware, and it expected him to prove his worth not through strength alone, but through intelligence, observation, and courage. The palace's halls were unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Suspended walkways arched through the air. Without support, walls pulsed faintly with flowing light, and chambers expanded and contracted subtly as though breathing. As he explored, he felt a strange sense of being watched, not with malice, but with careful attention. Leora guided him to the central chamber, where a translucent platform hovered above a pool of softly glowing liquid. "This is where you begin," she explained. "The sisters will arrive soon. They will test you, each in their own way. You must be prepared." Alex's stomach tightened. He had not expected tests. He had expected welcome, maybe even admiration. Instead, he found himself at the threshold of challenges that would stretch his mind, body, and spirit in ways he could not yet comprehend. Then the first sister appeared. Her hair was a deep shade of violet, eyes sharp and inquisitive. Not smile. She studied Alex carefully, circling him like a predator gauging the strength of her prey. "Human," she said softly, "do you understand why you are here?" Alex hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I believe I have been chosen to learn, to help, and to belong," he said. The sister's eyes narrowed, but a faint nod acknowledged his courage. Another sister appeared, her golden hair glowing faintly, her expression distant but curious. One by one, the remaining sisters arrived, each with a distinct presence and aura. Alex felt overwhelmed, but he sensed that he must remain calm, observant, and ready for anything. Each sister carried power, authority, and a personality that could challenge him in ways he had never experienced before. The first trial came quickly, almost without warning. The sisters instructed him to navigate a floating maze of light, energy, pulses shifting paths as he moved. Failure was immediate. The platform beneath him would retract, sending him tumbling into a soft but disorienting void. Alex's hands shook as he calculated each step, watched the pulse of energy, and moved deliberately. The palace seemed to respond, offering subtle guidance. A slight shimmer here, a faint vibration there. He realized that he could not rush. He had to think, observe, and adapt. As he reached the end, the sisters' gazes followed him, each reaction a silent judgment. The violet-eyed sister inclined her head in approval. Alex felt a spark of pride, quickly tempered by awareness that this was only the beginning. By the time the trials ended, the sun-or, what he assumed was a sun, had shifted in the alien sky. Alex's body ached from concentration, and his mind buzzed with new knowledge, observation, and strategy. Leora approached him, her expression soft but serious. "You have taken the first step," she said. "Many humans would falter, but you adapted. Remember, this is only the beginning. The sisters, the palace, and the challenges beyond will demand more. Are you ready?" Alex exhaled, the fear still present but mingled with determination. He nodded, understanding that he had crossed a portal into a life where courage, intelligence, and heart were inseparable. As he gazed at the glowing expanse beyond, he realized that the adventure of his life had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The palace seemed to pulse with life as Alex moved through the glowing corridors, still reeling from the first trials. Each step carried a mix of awe and nervous anticipation. He had passed the initial test, but he knew the true challenge was only beginning. The five sisters had gathered in the central hall, their presence both intimidating and mesmerizing. Each of them carried a distinct aura, calm and guiding. The violet-eyed sister, sharp and scrutinizing, the golden-haired. One radiating distant curiosity, and the remaining two blending grace and quiet authority. Alex could feel their eyes on him, measuring every movement, every reaction, as though the palace itself were part of the assessment. The first sister to approach him was the violet-eyed one. Her gaze was penetrating, her movements precise and deliberate. "Human," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "To live here, you must understand more than words. You must see, listen, and act in ways your kind rarely does." She gestured to a floating sphere of shifting energy hovering above the floor. Alex approached it cautiously, feeling the pulse of power emanating from within. As he extended his hand, the sphere shifted, testing his instincts. He hesitated, then moved with careful precision, matching its rhythm. The sister's eyes softened slightly, a small acknowledgement of his adaptability. Before he could relax, the golden-haired sister stepped forward, her voice melodic and distant. "You think you understand, human, but understanding alone is not enough. Here, every action has consequence, and every choice reveals character." She guided him to a chamber where light flowed like liquid, creating paths that changed as he moved. Alex's heart raced as he navigated the shifting floors, aware that a single misstep could send him into the glowing abyss below. He concentrated, sensing patterns, adjusting his movements, and slowly making progress. The sisters watched silently, their expressions unreadable, but their presence heavy with expectation. As he completed the trial, the remaining sisters joined, each presenting a subtle challenge and alien riddle, a test of memory, a puzzle that required instinct and creativity. Alex realized that these exercises were not just tests, but lessons. Each sister's approach reflected her personality and values, and success required observation, patience, and courage. The palace itself seemed to respond, corridors aligning, energy pulses guiding him, as though the world around him was alive and connected to his choices. With every task, he felt both the weight of scrutiny and the spark of acceptance. Lunch hour. Whatever the alien equivalent was, brought a brief respite. Alex sat among the sisters, learning small details about their lives, their humor, and their rituals. Despite their otherworldly appearance, he noticed familiar emotions: pride, skepticism, amusement. The violet-eyed sister offered a rare smile when he correctly interpreted a subtle gesture, while the golden-haired one nodded approvingly at his cautious approach to a new custom. Even the most distant sisters observed quietly, revealing nothing. But Alex felt the gradual shift in their attention, a recognition that he was learning, adapting, and beginning to belong. Afternoon brought a new layer of complexity. The sisters introduced him to the palace's energy system's pulses that powered floating bridges, light conduits, and defensive barriers. Alex was instructed to redirect flows, stabilize sections, and anticipate changes. Mistakes were corrected immediately, sometimes by subtle nudges from the palace itself, sometimes by guidance from the sisters. He realized that living here required constant awareness, adaptability, and respect for the interconnectedness of everything around him. Each success built confidence, each mistake offered a lesson, and with every moment, the bond between him and the sisters deepened, though some remained cautious. Their trust earned only through observation, As evening approached, Leora gathered him in a quiet chamber overlooking the floating gardens. The sky shimmered with alien hues, and the energy of the palace pulsed gently beneath his feet. "You have done well today," she said softly, her voice a calm anchor. "The sisters are testing, observing, and guiding you. Acceptance will not come all at once, but you are learning. Trust, courage, and intelligence will carry you forward. The challenges are only beginning, but you are no longer just a visitor." Alex exhaled, the day's trials weighing on him, yet he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced scrutiny, adapted to strange and shifting customs, and begun forming bonds with beings far beyond his understanding. That night, as he rested in a chamber suspended above the glowing courtyard, Alex reflected on the day. The palace, alive with energy, seemed to watch over him, whispering guidance and subtle pulses. The sisters' presence lingered in his mind, curious, demanding, unpredictable, yet slowly warm. He understood that this world required more than courage. It required respect, observation, and a willingness to adapt. And as he drifted into sleep, the soft glow of the palace surrounding him, he realized that life among the 5 alien sisters would never be simple, never predictable, but endlessly extraordinary, and that he was beginning to belong in ways he had never imagined. The next morning, the palace seemed to hum with anticipation. Alex awoke to the faint glow of energy coursing through the walls, the soft vibrations of a world alive and aware. Today would be different. The sisters had planned new trials, tests, that went beyond mere observation, demanding intelligence, intuition, and courage. Each sister's gaze followed him from a distance as he moved through the corridors. Their presence a reminder that he was no longer a casual visitor, but a participant in something far greater than himself. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders as he prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The violet-eyed sister approached first. She presented Alex with a sphere of shifting energy, larger and more complex than any he had seen before. "You must understand its rhythm," she said. "Every choice you make will echo. A misstep, and the consequences will be immediate." Alex studied the sphere carefully, noting subtle fluctuations and patterns. Each movement required balance and anticipation, and the palace seemed to respond to his focus, pulsing in faint encouragement. Minutes stretched, tension building, until finally he aligned the energy perfectly, earning a silent nod of approval. The first test complete, he could feel his confidence growing. But he knew better than to relax. This was only the beginning. Next came the golden-haired sister, who guided him to a chamber filled with floating platforms and streams of flowing light. She moved gracefully among the patterns, her eyes never leaving him. "You must navigate not just with your mind, but with your senses," she instructed. The platforms shifted unpredictably, and Alex's instincts were tested as he balanced, leaped, and calculated each step. He realized that patience and observation were as crucial as courage. When he finally reached the chamber's center, the golden-haired sister's rare smile acknowledged his success. For the first time, he sensed that one of the sisters truly believed in his potential. The remaining sisters introduced subtler, more psychological trials. One required him to interpret alien gestures and symbols, understanding intention and emotion without words. Another tested memory and pattern recognition, demanding rapid adaptation to constantly shifting energy currents. The final sister observed silently, her presence heavy with scrutiny, noting every hesitation and decision. Alex felt the weight of their combined attention, the palace itself, alive with expectation. Each challenge pushed him beyond comfort, yet he discovered new strengths, adaptability, and clarity he had never known in the human world. Between trials, the sisters allowed moments of quiet instruction. Alex learned about their customs, their history, and the delicate balance of power and responsibility within the palace. He began to understand the subtle dynamics between them, how each sister's personality shaped her methods, her expectations, and her approach to trust. Some were openly critical, some distant and reserved, but all watched carefully, measuring his reactions and growth. Alex realized that these trials were not arbitrary. They were designed to teach, guide, and prepare him for life among beings whose lives were governed by far more than human logic alone. As the day progressed, Alex found himself growing more attuned to the palace's rhythm. He noticed that energy flows reacted to his presence, subtle shifts guiding him when he paused to observe. Tasks that had seemed impossible in the morning now became manageable, and even enjoyable as he discovered the joy of learning and adapting. The sisters began to interact with him in new ways, offering subtle hints, testing patience, and even sharing small, almost imperceptible gestures of approval. Each success built not only skill, but trust, bridging the gap between human uncertainty and alien expectation. By evening, Alex was exhausted but exhilarated. Leora met him in the observation chamber, the sky outside shimmering with alien hues. "You have faced the trials well," she said softly. "The sisters are still cautious, but they see your effort, your courage, and your willingness to learn. Trust is earned, not given. Continue on this path and you will find yourself accepted, not just by us, but by the palace itself." Alex nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He realized that life here would never be easy, but the challenges were shaping him, molding him into someone capable of standing alongside these extraordinary beings. As night fell, Alex lay in the chamber above the glowing gardens, reflecting on the day. Every trial, every observation, every subtle lesson had revealed a new layer of understanding. The sisters were testing him, yes, but also guiding him toward belonging. He felt a sense of anticipation for the days to come, a mixture of excitement and caution. The palace hummed softly beneath him, alive, aware, and responsive, whispering hints of future trials and hidden challenges. And in the quiet glow, Alex understood that the journey to trust, acceptance, and true partnership had only just begun, and he was ready to face whatever came next. The calm of the palace was shattered mid-morning by a distant vibration. Subtle at first, then growing into a steady thrum that ran through the corridors and floors beneath Alex's feet. I'd been navigating the floating walkways with the sisters, learning to anticipate shifts in the palace's energy flows, when a sudden flash of light in the distance drew everyone's attention. The sky outside, normally serene and shimmering with alien colors, had darkened at the edges, and shadows moved unnaturally across the floating structures. Alex felt a tightening in his chest. This was no ordinary disturbance. Leora's voice cut through the tense air, calm but urgent. "Something approaches. Stay alert. Every movement counts." The first wave of intruders arrived silently, slipping through the outer energy barriers as if they had studied the palace's defenses. Alien shapes, twisted and unfamiliar, moved with precision, their forms partially concealed by cloaking energy. Alex's heart raced as he realized the threat was immediate. He had trained, adapted, and faced the sisters' trials. But this was different. Draw danger with stakes far higher than any test. The sisters moved around him with synchronized grace, their powers manifesting in protective shields, energy pulses, and barriers that shimmered in the glowing air. Alex had to act, his instincts sharpening with every heartbeat. The violet-eyed sister gestured sharply, directing him to a series of control nodes that managed the palace's energy flows. "Redirect the currents to stabilize the outer barriers," she commanded. Alex's hands moved swiftly over the controls, feeling the pulse of the palace respond beneath his fingertips. The palace itself seemed alive, guiding his movements, amplifying his decisions. Yet he knew that hesitation could mean disaster. Every shadow that approached, every pulse of alien energy, demanded immediate calculation. He felt the sisters, eyes on him, evaluating his decisions as the palace vibrated with anticipation. As the intruders pressed closer, Alex coordinated with the sisters. The golden-haired sister manipulated streams of liquid light, creating temporary bridges and defensive walls, while the others struck precise energy pulses to deflect and confuse their attackers. Alex realized that his human instincts combined with the sisters' guidance and the palace's responsiveness were the key to survival. He predicted enemy movement, rerouted energy flows, and reinforced barriers at critical points. One of the intruders broke through briefly, its shadowy form lunging toward a vulnerable section of the palace. Without hesitation, Alex activated a stabilizing pulse, sending the intruder sprawling back into the containment field. The battle intensified, the palace responding dynamically to every action. Alex felt a surge of exhilaration mixed with fear. He was no longer merely a participant, but a crucial part of the defense. Each sister moved with unmatched precision, their powers flowing seamlessly in harmony with the palace's energy. The violet-eyed sister nodded approvingly at his might action, a rare gesture that fueled his resolve.
Wow.
He realized that he had earned their trust, not through words or intentions, but through decisive action under pressure. The palace had accepted him as one of its protectors, and every success reinforced that bond. Finally, after what seemed like hours compressed into minutes, the intruders faltered. The palace, responding to Alex and the sisters as a single entity, trapped the remaining attackers in energy fields, forcing them to retreat. Silence returned, heavy but filled with the subtle hum of restored equilibrium. The sisters gathered. Expressions a mixture of pride, relief, and lingering caution. The violet-eyed sister stepped forward, her eyes meeting Alex's. "You acted well, you adapted, you decided, and you protected us. Today, you became part of this place, part of us." Alex exhaled, exhaustion and relief mingling with a profound sense of accomplishment. Leora approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "The palace and the sisters recognize your presence, Alex. You have faced real danger, not just trials. You're not just learning, you are living it. Remember this feeling? The responsibility, the trust, the unity. This is the bond that will carry you forward." Alex nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and determination. Outside, the floating city shimmered peacefully once more, but he knew this calm was temporary. Shadows still lingered beyond the horizon, threats would come again, but he was ready as night fell. Alex walked through the quiet corridors, the palace alive with soft pulses of energy. He realized that the trials, the challenges, and the battles were shaping him into something more than human, not by changing who he was, but by teaching him to adapt, trust, and act decisively. The sisters' presence, once intimidating, now felt like guidance and partnership. He understood that life among them would always be unpredictable, filled with challenges, but he no longer felt fear. He belonged here, and for the first time, he felt a profound sense of purpose that connected him to this alien world. The palace and the 5 extraordinary sisters who had taken over his life. The morning after the palace had defended itself from the intruders, Alex awoke with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The adrenaline of the previous day still lingered in his veins, and he could feel the subtle pulse of the palace around him, almost like a heartbeat that reminded him he was part of something far larger than himself. The sisters moved around him with a newfound ease, their glances occasionally holding approval, their gestures subtly guiding him. Alex understood that the events of the past day had shifted something fundamental. He was no longer merely a visitor. He was becoming integrated into their world, a participant in its rhythms and responsibilities. The violet-eyed sister approached him first, her movements deliberate but less formal than before. "Today," she said softly, "you will learn more about us, about our lives, and about the palace itself. Understanding is just as important as action." She led him to a hall filled with crystalline structures that glowed with shifting patterns. "These are the histories of our family, recorded in energy. You will read, interpret, and understand. The palace will help you if you observe carefully." Alex approached cautiously, feeling the energy vibrate in resonance with his own pulse. As he touched the structures, the glowing patterns responded, revealing visions of the sisters' pasts, their struggles, and their triumphs. He absorbed the lessons carefully, sensing the depth of connection between them, the palace and the world beyond. Later, the golden-haired sister led him to the gardens suspended above the floating city, streams of glowing liquid traced pathways. Between the platforms, an alien flora reacted to their presence with subtle shifts in color and energy. "These gardens are alive," she explained, They respond to emotions, thoughts, and intent. Learning to move within them is learning to move within us. Alex navigated the pathways, carefully adjusting his steps and gestures. Shifted with him, sometimes guiding, sometimes testing. By the end, the sister nodded, her approval quiet but unmistakable. Alex felt the joy of small victories, understanding the palace and the sisters, not through trial alone, but through observation and patience. Throughout the day, the remaining sisters introduced him to the palace's daily routines, rituals, and subtle responsibilities. Alex learned how energy flowed through the palace, how to maintain balance in the light conduits, and how to anticipate shifts in the floating platforms. He discovered that living with the sisters required constant awareness and careful attention. Each small task, each adjustment, strengthened not only his skill, but his bond with the sisters. They began to trust him more openly, occasionally offering hints or assistance, acknowledging his efforts with small smiles or approving gestures. Alex realized that acceptance here was earned through consistency, awareness, and willingness to learn, not through words or appearances alone. As evening approached, Leora gathered him in the observation chamber overlooking the luminous city below. The sky shimmered with alien colors, reflecting off the floating platforms and crystalline spires. "You have grown," she said softly, her silver eyes steady. "The palace and the sisters have recognized your efforts, your courage, and your intelligence. You're becoming part of this family, though the challenges will continue. Remember, trust and understanding are as vital as action. You must continue to observe, adapt, and grow." Alex nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. He had faced trials, defended the palace, and learned to navigate both its physical and emotional landscapes. Night fell, and the palace glowed with gentle, living light. Alex sat quietly, reflecting on the day's lessons. He understood that the sisters' influence was not controlling but guiding, shaping him into someone capable of participating fully in their world. He felt the bonds with each sister growing. Small but significant trust earned through actions, understanding, and shared experience. The palace pulsed softly, alive around him, whispering subtle encouragements and hints of future challenges. Alex smiled faintly, feeling a sense of belonging and purpose he had never known before. Life among the five sisters was demanding, unpredictable, and exhilarating, and he was ready to embrace it fully, knowing that each day would strengthen his place in this extraordinary world. As he drifted into sleep, the gentle energy of the palace enveloped him, the sisters' presence a constant yet comforting reminder. He had survived trials, faced danger, and begun to form genuine bonds with beings far beyond his own kind. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he no longer feared them. He belonged here in this living palace with the five alien sisters, who had taken over his life, and he knew that together they could face whatever awaited beyond the glowing horizons of their floating kingdom. The morning light filtered through the translucent walls of the palace, casting soft patterns of color across the corridors. Alex awoke with a sense of anticipation, the energy of the palace humming in quiet encouragement. Today felt different, less like a test, less like observation, and more like recognition. The sisters moved around him with a blend of authority and familiarity, their gestures and glances carrying subtle approval. Alex understood that the days of proving himself had laid the foundation for something greater: acceptance, partnership, and belonging in a world far beyond his own. Leora approached him first, her expression serene. "Today," she said, "you will see that you are no longer merely learning. You are part of this family, part of this palace, and part of its purpose. But understanding this world requires more than skill. It requires trust, intuition, and heart." She guided him to the central chamber, where the five sisters awaited. Each one's presence was distinct, yet together they formed a harmonious whole. The violet-eyed sister gave a slight nod. The golden-haired sister's smile was faint but real, and the others watched with measured interest. Alex felt a surge of pride tempered by humility. He had earned their trust, but the responsibility was immense. The day's challenges were different from the previous trials. Rather than tests of strength or agility, the sisters presented scenarios, that required diplomacy, decision-making, and emotional intelligence. Alex navigated negotiations between the palace's energy systems, resolved minor conflicts among floating platforms, and anticipated subtle shifts in the palace's responses. Each success reinforced the bond between him and the sisters, the palace itself responding to his presence as though acknowledging him as an integral part of its living system. He realized that acceptance here was not a single event, but a continuous process of engagement, observation, and thoughtful action. Throughout the day, the sisters shared more of themselves. The violet-eyed sister recounted moments of past challenges, teaching lessons of patience and strategy. The golden-haired sister demonstrated ways to harmonize with the palace's energy, blending human instinct with alien intuition. The remaining sisters each offered guidance in their unique ways, teaching, testing, and mentoring simultaneously. Alex absorbed every lesson with focus, understanding that trust and partnership were built through consistent effort, empathy, and attentiveness. He felt the initial intimidation of their presence give way to genuine connection, a sense of belonging that was both exhilarating and grounding. By evening, the palace glowed with a tranquil energy, a reflection of the unity between Alex and the sisters. Leora led him to a balcony overlooking the floating city, the sky shimmering with alien hues that danced like ribbons of light. "You have grown," she said softly. "The palace and your sisters have seen your courage, intelligence, and willingness to adapt. You are no longer an outsider. You belong here, and together we will face whatever the future holds." Alex exhaled, a sense of accomplishment and purpose filling him. He understood that life in this extraordinary world would always be challenging, but he was ready. He had proven himself, formed bonds, and found a place among beings whose lives were far beyond human comprehension. Night settled over the palace, the gentle pulses of energy like a lullaby as Alex prepared to rest. He reflected on the journey, the trials, the tests, the intruders, and the gradual building of trust and connection. He understood that acceptance was ongoing, that learning and adaptation would continue, but he no longer feared the unknown. The sisters' presence was now a source of guidance and partnership, and the palace itself felt like a living entity attuned to him. Alex felt a profound sense of belonging, the knowledge that he had found a place where courage, intellect, and heart mattered equally, and where he was recognized as a trusted part of a family unlike any other. As he closed his eyes, the energy of the palace wrapped around him, and he realized that this world, its beauty, its challenges, and its extraordinary inhabitants, was now home. The sisters, the palace, and the floating city all intertwined with his existence, creating a life full of purpose, adventure, and connection. Alex knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, unexpected tests, and opportunities to grow, but he was ready. He belonged, and with the sisters by his side, there was nothing he could not face in this remarkable alien kingdom.